Well, I think the first part of that breakdown, I'm actually going to expand the audio over from IG because sure enough, we had our mic muted there. But yeah, just to quickly recap where we left off. Nora, not impressed with her takedown defense. I like her striking. I'm going to exploit that in future fades by just looking at who Nora's facing. And if they can mix it pretty well and grapple better yet, then I like the idea of Nora getting finished on the ground via ground and pounder submission. But was happy I took her in the fight nonetheless. She had a submission of her own. Doesn't happen often. Gore going back and forth with Marco Tullio. Tullio, all gas, no brakes, having huge success mixing in crisp boxing, powerful jabs, snapping the head back of Gore, powerful kicks, going high, ends up setting up the final, fatal recipe for Gore up against the cage. Got sat down on his ass like a baby, fed a lullaby. He's out. Tullio's weakness is the fact that he has no defense in his striking. He will get finished fighting like this and have a much shorter career. So if he cleans it up and keeps it more technical, I like his ability and his finishing prowess with the power and the speed. Moving up, so at this point we're hitting fighter and distance, 100%. Moving up, I took Simidarji. I liked him via decision or the chance of knockout. I know he wins mostly by knockout, but I respected the fact that we're going up in opposition and we're fighting at flyweight and that his opponent was going to be very grapple heavy. So I figured it'd be a split decision at the very worst. The fight should have unraveled as a unanimous decision. One of the judges will investigate further. Fucking gave it to Mitch. So that was like the first foul. Like, okay, that makes no sense. Total strikes. This is Mitch's stats. 13 of 30 strikes total, 9 of which significant. Takedown defense, 6 of 19, and control time, 4 minutes. Versus 78 strikes out of 150, 45 of which significant. A lot of leg kicks, a lot of shots to the head. No takedown attempts or control time. But yeah, you got to be able to let the hands go. You got to be able to strike or threaten submissions. Wrestling alone won't win you fights. And it's becoming a talking point as of only recent. So just as a quick reminder, you can't show up like Danny Sabatini or whatever that dude from Penn State was over in Bellator. Win and have a 15-minute fight, nearly 15 minutes of control time if you don't choke or strike. Period. Okay. Now that we're caught up, again, Simidarji fight, indifferent about distance, stayed away. I did like him via money line, being the size and the expertise and well-roundedness. It was enough to secure a win there as well. Moving up the card, this one was probably one of the biggest donations of the entire Miami props, taking Michael by knockout. Gets the job done. Dumas, 50% of those wins coming via knockout loss. I knew that the fight wasn't going the distance, so we hammered that extra nicely on distance. Only 34 total strikes thrown. That's the thing that's different about some of these sport bookies where you're betting on strike props. Some of these knockout artists, you don't want to go too high. Michael only 34 significant strikes landed out of 57. And most of those shots, 27 of which hit into the head. Dumas was holding the shell. A couple of those shots started slipping through. And then Michael did a wonderful job of just posting up, going hard to the body, ripping back to the head. You can see the improvements already in this collaboration, his time training with the Fighting Nerds. Hits the glasses at the end. I think they have a new adopted foreign collaboration member here where I could see Michael doing some cool things with the Fighting Nerds moving forward, not just because of visa issues for his team and whatnot. So good win for him. He needed it. He had a tough go against Holland, obviously being too tough, having that arm break. Puts him in a tough position, but this was the one that he needed for sure. So I'll run this out real quick. All right. Moving up the card, Julian Erosa taking on Darren Elkins. Funny ass meme rolled through during the fights that I reshared out on that. You get a chance to check in the story. Yeah, I respected Rosa's finishing prowess. I respect his striking and his jiu-jitsu, his ground and pound, the ways that he hurts and opens up his opponents, and is very aggressive to also hunt for the finish and not just win via points. So I like Erosa fights by finish, for better or for worse. They generally do okay for me. And this one especially, Erosa secures the prelim parlay. As far as distance goes, nice way to open the card for me. And so we smacked that. And yeah, TKO round 1. Not too surprised. Yeah, I think that was a good one for Erosa. Elkins, in respects, both of these men have had long careers. Again, I like how Erosa seems to be aging. All right, speaking of the old dogs, Chase Hooper taking on Uncle Miller, who is good enough to hang with Hooper in the grappling world enough to survive the onslaught. I'm not expecting Miller to win these fights, but the fact that Chase has all these little tricks to like really pry and torque the shit out of your knee and bend the fuck out of your heel. Miller was put into a lot of threats, a lot of submission attempts that most of these guys would absolutely crumble under. So I want to give my flowers there to Miller, his fight veteranship, especially most octagon time and accumulating. Having Hooper not be able to finish you, despite he's got 4 minutes on your back and 3 minutes and, practically side control. It just goes to show you that Miller, he's game. He's about it, but not to take away from Hooper. We stayed away from props on a lot of this one. I was indifferent with distance on this. I know the props had Hooper so fucking high you would expect an early finish, but it was because of the well-roundedness and veteranship of Miller. I shied away from it for a degree. I ended up taking Hooper by a sprinkle via TKO or knockout because the prop was plus 560. And I've seen when he's posting up, prying, hitting ground and pound after trying to fish for a submission and getting a big pop in a reaction. But also when he pulls guard, he's very lethal off of his back when he pulls guard. He's using his range, just like we saw with Erosa, leaning back far, slicing with an elbow forward. He stays very active with it. I'm pulling up the notes that I have on this fight now. Said Hooper by points, plus 220. Faded by Miller with a sub at plus 2,000. You got to recognize 21 of those submissions. Miller has 21 pro submissions, and only 17% of his losses have come by way of submission, and the last being since Du Bronx of 2018. That was my notes. So I did say Hooper by points plus 220, Miller by sub plus 2,000. We actually do okay here as well. So moving up the card further, it was a great fight. I like Hooper's call out, like, hey, I'd like to get some younger guys. He's feeling the tension in the community. He's hearing the conversations. Way to take advantage of an opportunity and get a call out that could be a big make or break to some bad rap, right? If he wasn't aware of this or felt this himself, it could have looked bad if he got on and called out a vet not knowing. So, all right, moving up the card, Yan Xiaonan taking on Verna Jandiroba. I took Jandiroba right away in this fight. I didn't have to think super hard about it. I know that Yan has had some tough times out in these grappling exchanges, and she shines mostly in some back and forth exchanges with her striking. She's fairly durable, hard to put away, and so generally I feel like her durability carries her into fights where her own power opens up opportunities for the TKO knockout in turn of eating some. I knew this fight with Jandiroba would be less of a striking affair. We'd spend some time together on the ground. Jandiroba is very quick to get into these positions. I think in the second round she already had hooks in and was working off back with about 4 minutes to spare. So Jandiroba, she goes out, she gets after it. She can eat a good amount of damage too. There were times that she was on her back, maybe trying to hit an up kick or just get into some better positioning off her guard after Jan's been able to pull away. And Jan was dropping down on Jandaroba with these massive, powerful shots that you could hear a good smack from her too. And Jandaroba stayed game and composed through all of that. So even under a gunfight, she's proved to be pretty durable, and she only adds to an already very impressive fight resume. So happy to see her get the win. She's at 22-3 now. Definitely worthy, and will be a title contender here after that win. Now, here's the final fight of the prelims. Aside from the judging with Mitch earlier, this one's a controversial one for me, the way I saw it. Dan Ige taking on Sean the Sniper Woodson. I thought Ige was winning via points throughout this fight, and that Ige's reality is that he needed a finish. I guess the scorecards had it for Ige somehow. Not sure what that's about, but I did see that Woodson getting dropped late in this fight, took a big shot from Dan Ige, started kind of circling off. He did have a decent amount of time to recover in all defense. It wasn't like Ige just put it on him with one tap and got a reaction and pummeled him. No, I mean, Woodson, size, movement, footwork, always doing things with his hands. He stayed pretty composed and was coming back, but, gained that equilibrium back. But Ige doing a good job working to the body some. Working to the body is a big thing against Woodson. Most people can't sit there in front of him without Woodson sniping him far away or him pushing off or using his feet and circling away. He was hurt, and so Ige going to the body the way he did, that's what folded Woodson, get him down to the ground. And I thought he was getting back to his feet all right. He was hurt. He was shook up, but he had recovered and was coming through. Right as Woodson put his feet underneath him to leap up to his feet, the ref had already started jumping in, and that was it. Third round finish, Dan Ige via bad stoppage / TKO. Ige, though, really humble about it. Really, really just happy in general. I really needed this win. And yeah, I get it. 19-9. He could have been 18-10, and that's just hard to keep seeing, hard to keep doing in a division that certainly will suppress fighters of his physical and technical, talents. He's still live for some fun fights, but at the end of the day, these guys are here to push rankings and get title fights, right? So, from a job security standpoint, looks good. Father time again, Ige's been around. He's been game, so he's earned some stripes. Good to see him get that. That was like my first official upset pick of the card, but it's just sad it came in the way it did because that ref should have had no business stopping that fight. So between Mitch's judge, that official stoppage, not too happy about that. We can improve this and do much better. All right, moving up the card, Nikita Krylov taking on Dominic Reyes. I saw a lot of people high on Nikita. I didn't disagree. I like Nikita's speed, his tempo, the way he just throws himself out there with taking those risky leaping jumps and kicks and so forth. That was the thing that lost him this fight, is Krylov putting himself out in such a way where when being countered, he's eating all that velocity that he's lunging and springing towards Reyes. So Reyes finding the timing with this left, it was like a left hook that he kept countering over at Nikita's onslaughts, the kick attempts, the punch attempts. Reyes had found a few times in this fight where it hit. I know one time it had Nikita pretty stumbled and wobbly on the feet for 2 seconds like he was slipping on oil. Regained his composure. Both men re-engaged. Fight proceeds, and here we are. First round finish, slaps. We said distance, no. And I also had fight ends by knockout. So if either fighter wins by a knockout, that hits 2. So that was a fun, easy one. And Dominic Reyes is back. Krylov, that was a tough one out for you. Dominic Reyes is live. We'll see what nice matchmaking can come of this. Could see it come eventually a run back with Yuri would be cool, but he's got some game competition, Roundtree, Hill, some other decorated strikers. Looking forward to that. All right, moving up the card further, Bryce Mitchell taking on John Silva. Huge star power fight. Fighting nerds trying to defend the record. Bryce Mitchell, battle of good versus evil. The spiritual tension going into this one. You know, if true, obviously, we're being told it's affecting Bryce's quality of sleep, the temptations, and fighting with his religion, which we know carries this man. If all true, then yeah, Bryce having a very hard time getting through this fight, but putting more on stake, more on the marbles than ever, and wanting to cast out this darkness. You know, Silva, TikTok practitioner, knockouts, finishes. He had numerous times where he had Bryce's head tucked in that guillotine, going for a ninja choke a few times. Absolutely having no problem shoving off these very weak and pathetic single leg attempts by Mitchell. We all expected much more in this world. If Jourdain can show up and do his job and ragdoll Silva around, surely in this, short, brief time in between, we would see Mitchell be able to implement what he did with Barbosa and some of these other guys of just dominant striking, with the leg kicks, of course, but waiting for those opportunities for the takedowns, but actually getting them. All we had for Mitchell this fight was leg kicks. Kept the first round a little bit closer, but going into second and third, Silva was the one making the adjustments, and yeah, Mitchell was learning that he wasn't going to win in some of these areas that he's used to bullying his opponents. So, very fun fight. Bryce quick to hit social media afterwards and let us know that we're all okay. He's all okay. This and that. So good on him. I haven't been able to watch the presser, but obviously Gene's having tons of time with the spotlights in the media. Again, very big fight there. Was a bit of a pick 'em for me, even though the Silva knockout, I was more than confident would be the way it would happen. So what's beautiful about this is I just took distance no, and I had only some sprinkles on Mitchell by submission and Silva by knockout. So the distance no proceeds. That's the safe one. That's the big parlay one. It's a 9-leg and we're cooking. Moving into the next fight on the main card, Yair Rodriguez taking on Patricio Pitbull. I had Rodriguez in this fight via money line. I respected the fact that he could get the finish, he could get the choke, but he also could just ride this out and be safe, because Rodriguez is flashy and he's fun, sure, but when he's winning a fight, he's not really taking all those risks and still hunting the finish. He kind of leans a bit more on his grappling and kind of shies away. In this fight, Rodriguez was doing good with his kicks. Pitbull, tough, being able to eat some of these shots. We all know that Yair Rodriguez is just one of those guys. He's going to use his elbows, he's going to use his knees, and he's going to use those kicks. So, not an elitist in all areas, but a complete fighter in being disciplined and being able to mix them. So, was confident with my pick on that. I like the physicality matchup, the size, the speed. Pitbull was live for a knockout at any point in this fight. I mentioned that Rodriguez has been finished like 60+% of his fights via TKO or knockout, and that Pitbull throwing the way he does, that would be the key to victory. But as far as a long grind using the 15 minutes, we were correct. Yair Rodriguez takes it, and I stayed away from distance on this fight. Moving up to your co-main, Michael Chandler taking on Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. And man, does this one at least age well for us this weekend. The fight got announced. I called Paddy by finish immediately. Not by submission, by finish. Because I respect what Paddy's able to do with his ground and pound and the things that his opponents are having to do to survive the choke. Paddy is a true finisher. He goes out. He's guns a-blazing in terms of setting up those submission opportunities, implementing some striking that opens up his will. he is typically out of there in the first or second round, for better or for worse. We've seen a lot of his fights have a first round, have some key moments, crowds on their feet cheering, and now we're going into a second or a third where we see that dominance. But Paddy is going up in opposition. We all know that Chandler has the one-hitter quitter power. Could totally put Paddy out. Paddy's not the most solid defensive guy. We're just going off this, phrase, Housers don't get knocked out. Or again, if you're Cody Garbrandt, you might say sorcerers don't get knocked out. But either way, Paddy gets it done. We get the finish. And the final leg for our, what was it, like 70 to 1 prop parlay, along with 3 others, 2 of which had Diego by knockout, 1 of which Diego knockout 1, 2, or 3. But the rest were hammered mostly on distance. No. Respecting that it could be a late finish. See how the cardio plays out. Both guys going at it early and hunting for a finish. Neither guy's going to be okay going to the scorecard. So Diego was the one behind on the scorecards. Volkanovski succeeding in the overall volume, but the rounds themselves were 2-2 going into the 5th and final round. Diego having huge success at the end of the second, dropping Volkanovski, following up with a flurry, and Volkanovski literally getting saved by the bell. So that was kind of like my shining moment, is having my slip in my hand, looking down on it, still looking at that third round like we're live, knowing that there's no way this fight goes to the judges with both men dropping and swinging and going crazy the way they are. The big thing I'm going to knock Lopez on is he depends on his hands too much. He doesn't mix in his kicks or his knees enough. I'd like to see Lopez work in clinches and use that frame and that length that he has. He does a good job of crossing the void, but once you've seen how he sets up, plants his feet, and swings from kind of that lower stance, that almost like big hooks that go a little extra wide for whatever reason watching him. I'm sure it's just a physical thing with how long and snappy he is, winding his body close and his guard tight, but he just has these big meaty hooks, and I feel like there's some trajectory to the way that Diego Lopez throws this. And I said in my breakdown, I'm not worried about it coming from Volk, although I respect the boxing prowess of Volkanovski. But if for any reason Diego was to move up into a timeline where he was to fight at lightweight and for whatever reason cross paths with Gaethje, for instance, I don't expect this to happen, but that's the kind of fighter that I think shuts Diego down by a finish, because that uppercut has a lot of opportunities to find home. Diego plants his feet, ducks his head low, and just swings wildly, chasing Volk, trying to cross the void, Volk trying to reset. I've seen him throw some vicious, like, hammer strikes of a sort. I'd like to see Lopez use those limbs better. Let's throw some elbow strikes out there. Let's keep working on those outside and inside leg kicks. And let's let something hurt and zap our opponent to then follow up and go for that flurry. Trying to cross the void and offer the same gunfight for 25 minutes, unfortunately, was the result of Volkanovski becoming champion for all those who expected Diego. I covered in my breakdown that in my heart, I want Volkanovski to win, but in my brain, I think given the fact that champions don't come back, have a successful, and new become champion again kind of run, I got to go off statistics and what my brain's telling me, and it's that Diego's the new era, and we'll be witnessing the torch being passed to Diego Lopez from Volkanovski. But Volkanovski, being a dog, was used to being the dog for a long time until he became a popular, fan-loved favorite in a lot of his matchups, going back to his old ways. Thought we'd see, because of his training with Craig Jones, because of his training with Aljo, and all these other collaborations we had seen out of Bangkok, Dennis Bazooka, that we were just going to see, Volk try to protect his chin better, try to avoid the gunfights, and not risk having that young gun come in and just snap and put him on this 3-loss skid by finish. Volkanovski ended up being really patient at range. He's really good despite the size and discrepancies between him and his opponents. He finds his kicks, his outside and inside kicks, and he's quick with popping the jab and some boxing. So he's mixing the levels. He's quick with it and circling off. He doesn't stay put for too long. He does eat some shots, but he's able to weather them. You could see throughout this fight early the brow of Volkanovski getting cut, him touching it repeatedly. You could tell it was bothering him. Fight's not getting stopped. We proceed, and this is what eventually opened up that knockdown by Lopez. That had he been able to finish with that short flurry, I would have had somewhere around $20 between a couple different parlays, cash out at $350. If Lopez would have won by knockout in the first, second, or third round, that parlay on top of the distance would have hit. So again, we keep things low risk around here. We have fun. For me, I'd rather spend a few dollars and be able to verify the hard work, research of time breakdown and fight predictions more accurately than to have, the here's all the wager in the major wagers that I made, and maybe it was a good night, maybe it was a bad night, but the difference of that could result in being down several units. So we keep it light, we keep it fun, we keep it entertaining. The prelims were aced. We made some money tonight, but more importantly, we got to witness a very fun highlight night full of knockouts, highlight night full of finishes, and a fight that I'm happy to see Diego and Volk both have on their resumes, to be able to say 5 minutes of that. There's certainly a lot other championship bouts that were far less interesting. This one kept it interesting. I will say that Volkanovski showed up and looked about his best, and Diego just didn't. So I'm curious to hear what issues he had with Volkanovski, why he was slugging for home runs throughout the entire fight instead of implementing some grappling and tripping and attempts to get this fight to the ground, where I would expect Diego to just floor and at least open up opportunities. But overall, had an amazing fight night. It was fun having a friend swing through. So if you're part of the live stream process, sorry the microphone goes muted, but we switch to speakers and protect the audio from copy reasons. So the fight companion was up. We were clicking off mute a few times here and there, doing just brief catch-ups, but more importantly, wanted to do the formal fight breakdown. So for part of this video, due to audio reasons, you might have missed like the first breakdown or two. If you're interested in that, please check out my IG. But most of you watching this are going to be on IG. So we had the prop. Do I get the haircut of Volkanovski or Diego? The winner, or the requirement of this was 100 subs on YouTube. So we are short of that. I don't have an unofficial timeline on this, but let's just call it by Monday at the latest. If I don't have the 100 subs, then I guess I'm not forced to do shit. But if I get the 100 subs by Monday, then we'll consider it, right? We'll get the Volk due. So had a lot of fun on the breakdown. Friend came through. Brother was calling me. Gonna have a lot of catching up with him there. He's thinking, Patty could have a shot at Islam now. That'd be crazy too. So a lot of fight analysis to continue. A lot of things to break down. Again, I can't say it enough. We had a fantastic UFC 314. Couple fight nights to go. Hit and miss cards. Cannot wait for UFC 316. Some of these other upcoming pay-per-views. Looking very much forward to that. We'll go through further. Go through some props, some highlights there. Some more cards. We got some projects in the work for y'all. So enjoy this one. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you next time. Peace. Make sure you hit the subscribe, or I get to keep the hair.